Okay, so The Way is the new film from writer and director Khalil Dastan. Um, it is produced by uh, doo, 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 Jen Brewer. We got Chris Smith, Dastan, and Eli Jane. It's executive produced by Andrea Brooke, uh, Sheta Khalil, and Reza Mossavi. Music is from Reza Safina. Cinematography is handled by Yejini Zouk. It's edited by Dastan and Drake Booth. Uh, Dustin Cole Blackburn handles the casting. Design production is Vanessa Plaza Lazo. Set decoration is Maxwell Mahan and Will Santos. We have Jean Carlos Vanessa Gonzalez, Rachel Lund Olsen, Robert Motta, and Bali Wangler handling hair and makeup. Production management is Nikki Freeman and Megan Fillmore. So our cast, well, we have got Ellie Jane. She is our lead. I'd say our lead in the joint. She plays Jane Arcs. We then have Kelcey Watson. He plays Max Stone, aka Ben Jordan. We've got Master Xin, played by Joan Wong. Tyson is played by Lorenzo Antonucci. Richard is played by Will Lupadaris. Bob is Dennis Delsing. Frank is played by Oscar Balderrama. Jake, Jane's son, is played by Caden Ellis. Vera is played by Amber Gaston. Father Ross is played by Charles Mays. Walden Hander is played by Michael Ray. Jason Lilly is played by Eric McIntyre. Dr. Blackburn is Noel Tuland. Nurse Johnson is Karoki Corey. Nurse Smith is Diane Yang Kirk. We've got Lady Blue, played by Erin Mcklow. Officer Smiley is played by Megan Smiley. We've also got Alice, played by Jenna Carr. The medical executioner, played by Casey McCullen. The referee, played by Peter Harper. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I feel that's our main group of people. The gist of the film is this: 13 years ago, Jane Arcs was condemned to death after brutally killing her opponent in an underground street fight. Now, in just 24 hours, Jane will be executed for her crime. During her 13 years on death row, Jane has undergone a major evolution under the tutelage of a fellow inmate and Qi Gong Master Xin, learning the way of Qi Gong and ostensibly gaining supernatural abilities. As the day of her execution arrives, um, Jane embraces her punishment in the spirit of transformation. Max Stone, Jane's boyfriend, as well as correctional officer and part of the execution tie-down team, has very different ideas. He is willing to do anything to save Jane. Will he kill others to save her life, or will Jane help him see the light and to let her go? So, yeah, that's essentially the film. Now, Dastin Khalili, he he did put out a statement on the film's website, which says this: the way an action drama, a story of brutal underground street fighting, spiritual martial arts, family grief, and ultimate redemption, galvanized through radical self responsibility and the true freedoms it brings. As a filmmaker, I capture and interrogate emerging masculine and feminine models in storytelling today, beginning with a strong female lead and a cast that is multiracial and cultural, mirroring humanity. Also, I interrogate the spiritual way of living expressed through the esoteric and practical lifestyle sense, not with an intent to teach or preach, but as an aspect of the character's way of life, affecting their paths, choices, and experiences, turning a prison into a temple, for example, and recognizing that the human experience is the spiritual experience. The depth and breadth of these elements make for an interesting, compelling, and entertaining film that is simple and elegant in its delivery. I mean, like calling your own film, you know what I mean, elegant. I mean, yeah, it takes a little something to be that, right? But um it's interesting, right? So we kind of start off knowing where this is going, right? Just with the imagery and everything like that. We see the execution notice signed, right? So we have all of this. Now, we then um, have this kind of discussion about good and evil. It's a little bit clunky, but I think it's there to serve a purpose, right? And we then see Jane. Now, we don't really know the time frames in the film. You know, none of that is really stated. I mean, I think we get a 10 years, but from a conversation, but that's about it. Now, what we do kind of see, so we have incidents from the past in jail and out of jail. Now, the in jail ones are kind of depicted by the scrubs. I don't know, the uniform, right? The clothes Jane is wearing, right? Past is a dark blue, and present is a sky blue, right? It's a navy blue and a sky blue. I don't know. That's what it seemed like. It's interesting to know if that was a conscious thing or what, but that's how it kind of seems, right? The dark and the light, yeah, just all of that kind of jazz. But yeah, so we start off having Jane in the past, aggressive, angry, and you know, that kind of sets the mark, right? It is kind of looking and seeing how she goes from this to where she ends up, right? And I think that's the film. You know, there's a there's a lot that is a little clunky, right? And also you kind of wonder, how the fuck is Max a parole officer, like a parole officer? What would you call prison guard, right? How the fuck you get to be a prison guard after everything? There is all of that, and then there's also these conversations that happen, and you just, it's one of those things, right? Where you know, someone's in the next room or something like that, and you have people talking, but you're just like, yo, with the volume in which you're talking, everyone can fucking hear. Plus, it's prison, and you feel there's cameras everywhere, you know. And if it's not in a cell, there's a phone call that you're just like, yo, you are saying way too much on this phone line. You know what I mean? Because we definitely know they listen into the phones, right? So yeah, there's some conversations, and there's these things are around Jane and Max, and you just be like, I don't know how much of that really makes sense, because that seems a little bait. It really does, you know. Um, what I think the film does do, though, right? It is that whole thing of redemption. And listen, how many times have we seen people go to jail for murders or just doing some heinous shit, and they come out completely different? You know what I mean? Completely different viewpoints. And then, right, they're trying to help. Right, we've seen gang members go and then come out and do gang outreach and just all of that. Right, this is a thing that happens. It really is. Um, yeah, you know, Rick Ross, right? The real Rick Ross. You know what I mean? Like, he's a big kind of advocate now. It's just people like that that, you know, do these things. So I think we can understand that. And so seeing that journey that Jane goes on, that's the more powerful part of the film, right? And it is that thing, it's coming to terms with a thing that you've done, right? And we see this with conversations that she has with Max, with conversations she has with the priest, you know. And I think that's the big thing, right? It's these conversations, it's this realization that, yeah, I did a thing, so I kind of accept where this is going, but I'm still scared, right? Because that's, I think people sometimes mistake acceptance for, then, you know, you can't be scared, right? And that's not a thing. Like, you can know something's coming, accept it's coming. You can still be, you know, wary. You can still be scared of that happening, but there is that acceptance that helps you deal with it all, right? And I think a big thing right now is like, people do a lot of craziness, but don't really want to admit that shit. Like, how many times have we seen people going, that person should be cancelled? And then someone dredges up stuff from that person's past. And it's just like, oh, yeah, no, I did say that. But, you know, I've changed. And be like, yo, so the person you were saying should be cancelled, haven't they changed? Right? And it's not accepting your own shit. So I think the film does have this journey for Jane, right? Which shows these things. And I think that is the big part of the film, right? Because, yeah, some of the dialogue is not necessarily the best, But I think this whole thing for Jane, that is what holds this up, right? We see just the stuff with a kid. I mean, the stuff with a kid, again, it's not really fleshed out too much, right? We don't know why and all of that. We just know this thing happens. But we know before that, we were a nice little unit. There were plans, there were hopes, there were dreams, you know? And all of that comes crashing down. So, yeah, I mean, it would have been interesting to see maybe some of the case, right? Because you could say there's mitigating circumstances because of how everything goes down, right? Could say that. And it's an underground fight, right? It's an underground fight. Everyone's calling for death. Like, it's just crazy. So there's a lot. There's a lot around it that I think would have enriched the story. I think it would. But again, the thing, even though these things aren't there, and it is a shame, right? What we do get with this whole redemption tale and all of that, and then just the way the film ends for Jane, right? I think that is definitely the strength of the film. The film is very good on that front, which is, I think it's important, right? I think that part is important. It's showing these sort of things, this sort of story. So, you know, in that statement Dastan has, I get it. I don't think it fully meets that, but all power for him for trying, and yeah, some of it he does show well, right? Some of it he does show well. So if you like, these kind of prison stories, this whole look at redemption and how people get there, right? The things people are willing to do for loved ones, just all of that, then the way could be for you, could be for you. There is some nudity in the film. I don't know if it was needed, you know what I mean? I don't really know if it was needed. But yeah, it's there. So, it might not be for younger viewers, but everything else, I think everything else, I think people could palate, understand, process, just all of that. So yeah, The Way is now out on all your favorite VODs. So if this sounds like your kind of thing, people, maybe you want to go on your own journey, right? Go on your own journey and find the way.